Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Powerhouse Podcast. I am truly delighted as once again I have an amazing powerhouse joining us in the ring to go a few rounds and have those rich and juicy, meaty conversations. Before we start, let me just say hello and welcome to my guest, Whitney Vosburgh. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Candy. A pleasure to be here.
Well, it is a pleasure to have you, and it's such my honor. And in just a moment, I'm going to tell you more about how awesome Whitney really is. But just to remind you that this really is our platform to talk about leadership. This is talking about who we are as leaders in today's culture, what that means, and maybe what it doesn't mean. As we know, leadership is a function of how you choose to show up, how you choose to serve others, and how you choose to take that personal responsibility inside those two spaces. And this is our space to go deep. We want to have the real meaningful conversations, those courageous, connected conversations that allow us to explore the imaginative and dare to unravel or disrupt maybe some of what we've thought about leadership in the past. So with that, let me introduce my powerhouse guest who is here with us today. Whitney Vosburgh is co-founder of Work the Future Today, a social venture that offers vision, leadership, and solutions for maximizing personal, organizational, and societal potential. He is the co-author of two recent Work the Future Today books on purpose, passion, and prosperity. He is the co-founder of Brand New Purpose, a brand transformation consultancy. He is also a consulting chief marketing officer for Fortune 20 companies and Silicon Valley startups. He's guided over $20 billion in wealth creation. His work has been featured in ABC, BBC, Forbes, Newsweek, Time, US News, Venture, and the Wallstreet Journal. Told you he's a powerhouse. He graduated with an MA in Religious Leadership for Social Change from the Graduate Theological Union with a BFA from Parsons Schools of Design. Whitney's expertise on the future of work has been featured in 4 books, including a bestseller by Daniel Pink. Wow, that is amazing. I did not realize that. When he is not focusing on sustainable business consulting and writing, he can be found making art. And again, it is just, I could go on and on, but it is simply a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show. Welcome, Whitney.
And thank you for having me on your show.
So talk a little bit, because I'm curious, as someone who has done, a lot of work in a realm of religious leadership, what does that really mean in terms of transferring that into some of the consultancy, the marketing, the leadership work that you're doing now? How does one kind of go from some of the things that you've studied in the past to the work that you're doing now?
Yeah, the glue to it all is creativity, connection, and community. That's where the nexus meet. So whether I'm working as an artist, a spiritual leader, a business leader, it's all about figuring out why are we here, who do we serve, and how do we best serve them? Creatively, connectively, communally. So we can all be better together.
Absolutely. And I love that. I love a play on alliteration anytime. And I love the idea of creativity, connection, and community. And so when we talk about those words, let's dig in a little bit more around what you mean. Because I think one of the things we do, and one of the things we like to play on the show is oftentimes we say a word or we hear a word that's kind of like that buzzword lingo that's out there. People are like, oh, creativity. Yeah, I get it. When you say creativity, though, what does that really mean? And what does that mean that in terms of tapping into one's own potential and one's own greatness? And how do they demonstrate that or walk in that space once they tapped into it?
Creativity is the act, the beingness of finding and liberating the power of the hero or the heroine that lies within us. On top of that, it's what the Buddhists call beginner's mind. Looking at things, doing things, old things, familiar things in new ways.
So when we think about that hero story or that heroine story, curious, do you believe that every one of us has that story to step into?
Everyone is unique, which makes us all the same. We all are basically seeking the same thing beyond our basic needs of wanting to count, of belonging, of being needed, wanted, making a contribution, being valued, leaving a legacy. So we all have the power within us of leaning towards fear, destruction, or love and creation. And we've reached a point in this world where we have a choice. Not for that long, but we have a choice. We always have a choice for as long as we're alive. And things aren't so drastic that we've lost any, to go beyond a point of no return. Right now, we have a choice: destruction or creation, fear or love. To love is to look within oneself at our own very greatness and our unique gifts. In this headless leadership era, we have some very bright, intelligent leaders, but they haven't made that journey of the longest distance of the 18 inches from head to heart. They're disconnected. So it's all IQ, no EQ. So we need to be our own leader. And we do that by finding our unique gift, figuring out with whom best to share it and how best to share it. So that provides us with a life path in terms of this is where we came from, this is where we are, this is where we're going. Our purpose, based on our unique gift, is our North Star. It provides us with a sense of direction as well as a direction. And as you know, in life, at best, it's a zigzag with a couple of loop-to-loops. But if you average it out over time, you will get a direction. So it's all an inside job. All the answers that we need and want are inside us. Nobody can, by the time you reach 35, nobody can tell you what you need to know. You know it. It's a question of slowing down. Stop the chattering of the monkey mind and listening to the yearning of one's soul, one's spirit, one's chi, prana, life force. Doesn't matter what you call it. It's that which lies beyond our ego. We are not our ego. Our ego is important, but the ego is here to serve us, not vice versa. So by going beyond the monkey mind, the ego, to listen to our soul, that will provide us with a series of breadcrumbs that we need to follow until we arrive home to where our answers are, to the key questions of life. Who am I? Why am I here? What is my unique gift? Who do I share it with, and how do I share it with? So you can think of it as head, IQ, purpose, intellectual, EQ, heart, home, community, and then hands, practice. So it's purpose, place, practice. How do we best find our gift, share it with whom, and then how?
Right. Well, and I mean, there's so much richness in what you just said. And first and foremost, I'd like to highlight a little bit on the fact that I love that you talk about your purpose really being kind of that North Star.
Yes.
We talk a lot about creating your GPS, which is your goals, your purpose, and the systems or strategies around that. And it's really around creating that due north or finding that due north. And I think, you know, as you talk about that space of going within, and a lot of people keep looking for external validation or external sources, not realizing that they've been given everything that they need to really understand where their due north is and how to build their compass around it. And so all of that piece, and then talking about the space of really going within, a couple things I want to kind of delve into a little bit more is one, this notion around headless leadership. So when you talk about right now, we have a culture of headless leadership and that distance between, you know, our head and our heart, which is in a lot of cases, it is the most difficult journey for most people. I'm curious, what has brought us in your mind to a place where we're in this headless leadership, and Why do you think for people that distance is so hard to cover? Why is it, and this is just, I'm really curious in your opinion around this. What makes that journey, that drop from the IQ, the logical, the reasoning, the ego mind, what makes it so difficult to move from that space and drop into that very soulful, heart-centered, emotional intelligence? Because I know you work with Fortune 20 companies, I work with Fortune 100 companies, and EQ is one of the things missing in the quotient most of the time when it comes to leadership. Yes. Especially when I hear someone say, oh, they're leading from fear. And I'm like, that's not possible. Leading, true leadership comes from a place, like you said, of love, which is starting with yourself. Fear and love aren't in the same space. So leading from fear to me is like that oxymoron that says that's a contradiction in terms. Yet that's what's displayed. So I'm curious, what do you think is the biggest challenge for people to move from that IQ space, that head space, into a more connected, open, vulnerable EQ space? And in the context of what does that mean from the headless leadership and some of the work that you're doing?
So how many days do you have?
Well, we might just have to have you come back. Let's start, see where we go, and we'll keep having the conversation.
Traditional leadership is based on pushing.
Yes.
Traditional leaders push people out of the past into the present. True leaders pull people from the present into the future. So as a leader, you are in the front. You're not behind. Because if you're behind the times, you're behind the trends, you're behind the patterns, you're just behind. You're not a true leader. A true leader is a leader of self. So that I choose me, tag, I am it. It's taking responsibility for everything. When we take total responsibility for everything we do, think, feel, see, and don't, a series of choices, because human beings are a sum of our choices. When you take total control, it's the scariest thing in the world. But it opens one's mind, one's heart, one's gut. Because true leadership not only has IQ and EQ, they have GQ. IQ, intellectual quotient, intellectual intelligence, EQ, emotional quotient, and then what I call GQ, gut quotient, gut intelligence. So you have to have alignment of the intellectual, the emotional, and the intuitive.
Yes.
Why? Because we have brain tissue in our brain, in our heart, and in our gut. So when people say, yes, I feel that in my heart, or yeah, that feels right by my gut, they're actually telling the truth. They are scientifically accurate. So responsibility. I am responsible for myself and no one else in terms of how I choose to show up in the world, by everything I choose to do and not do, and by being everything that I am and what I choose not to manifest, to model, to express, what have you. True leaders are leaders of one, and it doesn't matter if they have any followers or not. It could be 1, 10, 100, 1,000, million, billion. But you're only a true leader when you show up for yourself each and every day. I choose to be my leader this day and every day henceforth.
And I love that so much. We talk a lot about responsibility, and we talk about there's usually two ends of the spectrum when it comes to people taking responsibility. You get the people that either take responsibility or try to take responsibility for everything and everyone, or you get the people that don't take any responsibility. And I love that you hit on this, because we really talk about how responsibility, the only thing you are responsible for is what you believe, what you expect, what you think, what you say, and what you do as a result. And when you realize that the commonality between all that is the word you. So to your
Yes.
point, you need to start, leadership always starts with leading oneself.
Yes.
And starts with, and what I love about that is because the other thing that we talk about so much is one of the things that has driven me crazy since my inception on this earth has been that I have been told leaders are either born or made. And I think that's the biggest cop-out and biggest bunch of bullshit that's put out into the world, because leadership is everybody's opportunity. And
Yes.
I hear you say that, and I hear this space of leadership starts with you choosing to lead yourself. Amen, hallelujah. And I could like hug you right now, because I so feel like that's a message that is missed too often, because I'll hear people say, well, my boss doesn't promote me, or this doesn't happen, or they. And I think it was Deepak that once said the worst 4-letter word in the English language is not the one everybody thinks it is. It's the word they and them. It's anytime we put our personal responsibility on somebody else because we think they're supposed to decide how we live our life. They're supposed to decide if we choose to be happy. And I love that when you talk about that, you're getting into that crux of responsibility being that choice to lead oneself first.
Yes, and so it's responsibility. It's also about authenticity, showing you up as you and no one else. There's no one who's ever been like you. There is no one else like you, and there never will be anyone like you. We are all truly unique, which makes us the same. We all need to be our own leader, our own boss, our own leadership model, our own hero. No one else can do it, will do it, or even wants to do it.
Right.
It's an inside job.
And we set people up for failure. And it's interesting, especially when I work with couples around this, but I see it in corporate so much. When we hand that power over, we're actually setting someone else up for failure. Because when we say, well, if they do this, then I'll be happy. If they do this, then this will happen. And as soon as we allow that to be an if-then scenario, we've now stopped leading ourselves, and we put ourselves in a space to say, and this other person, when we go, well, I'm happy only if, they're never going to make you happy. It's not their job to make you happy, nor could they ever succeed. Even if they do everything that you want them to do, it's still not something that they're set up to succeed in.
Right.
It's not their job.
Yeah. So we have our life, our being, this gift of life. So we need to show up increasingly as our own very real self, being authentic, and clearing all the crap out of the way so we can be transparent to ourselves and to others. Don't hide behind something that you aren't. Be real.
Well, and I heard a quote once. There's a video I show in all of my events, and there's a great line in one of the videos that says, you can never be the best copycat. And I think it's interesting how much we play this comparison game, right? We get into a lot of discussions around how everybody's watching everybody else's A track, right? Nobody knows what's going on in the B track. And essentially, and this goes to your statement of we're all unique, yet we're all the same. We all are what I would call a duck. We all have that mask we know how to wear that says, I look like I'm polished. I know what I'm doing. I'm confident. I'm this. And every one of us has somewhere where our legs are going a mile a minute under the water, and we've got some of that, I'm an imposter, I don't know how I got here, I don't know who we all have that. And I think it's so interesting because one of the things I've been talking to people about, and I'd love to hear your take on this, is I feel like there's this dichotomy of human nature that we so crave at the core of our core, in our essence. I mean, we all want acceptance, we all want connection, but at the core of our core, we want one person to see us for who we really are. On the flip side, we also have the greatest fear that someone is going to see us for who we really are. And I think there's this dichotomy of both of that, which keeps people in your plate, what you were saying before, choosing fear over love, choosing destruction over creation. And I would love to hear your take on that.
Well, I define love as the ability and the desire to look inside oneself or others, see one's or one another's greatness, and then to be able to treat oneself or others as if that greatness has been fully realized. That is love.
Say that again, would you? I love how you just define love, but I would love to have that resonate a little bit more. So say that again if you would.
Love is the gift to self and to others by seeing the greatness within and treating them as if the greatness has been fully realized. They are living out their true authenticity and leadership out loud, transparently, authentically, and lavishly.
Oh, that just so warms my whole body to think about that opportunity that we have as individuals, as leaders, and everyone has the opportunity to stand in a space of leadership. Leadership ultimately, and this is what we talk about all the time, leadership is a choice. It is not something that was bequeathed to you. It is not something that you were knighted. It was not something that you're waiting to get permission. Every single one of us has the ability to lead when, as Whitney says, we take the opportunity to look within and see our gifts for what they are and allow ourselves to fully represent them in all our authenticity, and look at those gifts in others and act as if they've been realized within them. I mean, that's just so profound.
Another way of putting it is meet people where they are and treat them as if they've arrived at where they would like to be. If you see gifts, greatness in someone else, and you treat them as if they're already living out their truth, their gifts, it's an invitation to them to grow into that.
Rise up. Well, it's like speaking to a child, right? If you set the boundaries and expectations for a child here, they're going to meet it. If you set the boundaries and expectations for a child, so when you allow them to see the potential you see in them, you make an invitation that says they get the permission then to lift themselves up.
Yeah, it's exponential potential. It's like the Marianne Williamson. It's not that we're afraid of failure. It's afraid of our greatness.
Right. It's not our light. It's our darkness that makes us, and it's that magnificent, right? And I think, in my opinion, because I talk to people, and I used to have this dichotomy that really showed up for me, which was I thought I was afraid of failure, when actually most people I would challenge that their fear of failure is actually more a fear of success.
Yes.
Failure, you can make the excuses. You can say, well, I tried, which is the biggest cop-out ever. I tried. Versus the fear of success, because with success comes greater responsibility at every level. And with greater responsibility creates greater ownership, therefore creates greater leadership. And in my opinion, I feel people are more afraid of success because they're afraid of the responsibility that comes with each level of success that they create.
I agree. The reason why there's such a dereliction of duty at leadership right across all sectors, right across the world, is because people who have tremendous power, wealth, influence, control are so insulated from reality, living in a bubble, that they start believing their ego. And they also believe that by having so many zeros in their bank account, or so many zeros of followers or people to control or influence or impact, that they think they have this sort of suspended reality of, if I have enough of this, in denial of decay, disease, and death, I will live forever.
And the reality is none of us are immortal.
So if the people who are supposedly in charge, which they're not, they're very, very afraid. Why should we look up to them? they not only cannot provide us with answers, they can't even provide us with good modeling.
Well, I was going to say, we tend to do that a lot. And I think there's part of the root of why we have such a culture of entitlement. We put people on pedestals. We make them be so unreachable. We forget that at the end of the day, they're human the same as we are. And like I said, the duck, where regardless of what you see on the surface, it's like people, when I used to live in Milwaukee, it would kill me. There'd be these beautiful $1 million homes along the lake, but if you got close enough, there'd be nothing inside. And so there was this appearance of, I have all this, therefore, and people would have this envy and this jealousy for something that wasn't even real. And so we oftentimes have these masks or these filters of what we think we're perceiving, and instead of looking at the heart of what something really is, the reality, we're only looking at whatever surface level we've been comfortable with. And oftentimes I think we do it as a way to cop out and make excuses so that we don't have to do that self-evaluation, that self-examination, that internal work that you've talked about, that we have to look at and say, so why do I keep projecting out? Because anything we see outside of us is just a mirror reflection of what's going on here. So if we're seeing things show up that are triggering, it's that opportunity to go in and get curious to say, so what's that mean for me, and what's my truth?
And it's like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. She goes through all these adventures only to discover, like, it's all about home.
Right. She had the power all the time within her, right?
And we always have the power.
Well, and that's the thing, and it amazes me how we get into this space where we talk about, we're going to empower other people. And I'm like, that's not possible. Empowerment's like motivation. It's a self-intrinsic choice, because empowerment, the word empowerment itself, says power from within. The definition, the literal translation of empowerment is power from within. Yeah. So the idea that we think we can empower others, we can influence, we can impact, we can inspire, we cannot motivate, we cannot empower, we cannot choose for them. And I think that's sometimes where people tend to want to take responsibility that's out of bounds for things that are not their responsibility to take.
We can only show up as ever higher expressions of our highest self to inspire ourselves and others around us.
Absolutely. So what inspires you? I love that word, inspire. And I think, true leaders find ways to inspire themselves regularly. So what things feed your soul, and what inspires you on a regular basis?
Well, having various mindful practices, whether it's meditation, yoga, spending time in nature, gardening, being an artist, looking within at my feelings, my ideas, my yearnings to ultimately let it bubble up from inside to my heart, to my head, through my hands, into expression, experiences, so that I can provide myself with a series of ongoing, overlapping, transformative, and ultimately transcendent emotional experiences. Excellent. And everything I do is project-based. And if you really think about it, jobs, no matter if you've been there for 30 years, it's a project. Everything is a project. It has a distinct and discrete beginning, middle, and an end.
Absolutely.
If you start thinking of yourself as, my life is a series of overlapping projects. Yeah. How can I design my life in such a way as to have the best series of learning, not earning, but best learning opportunities and experiences as projects, so I can make myself, my life, ever richer. And for most people, at some point or another, you'll make the cash register ring one way or another, because we have to survive. But that's how I do it. I always ask myself, how can I make my life more interesting, more exciting, more challenging?
Yeah, and I love that. It does come down to having that appetite, having that desire for learning. I like that you said, it's a series of projects because, one of the truths in as human beings is we're either going into a conflict in the middle of a conflict or coming out of a conflict. And I equate that back to your comment around projects. There's various projects that show up and we're doing one of those three things at any given time. And conflict not being a bad thing, because it's one of the things that I even teach, that you can't communicate without healthy conflict. And that includes even with yourself. And when you do this work to go within, it's facilitating that healthy conflict that allows you that learning opportunity. And I think that space of having that kind of voracious appetite for learning, to look at, what could I improve today? What could I expand today? What could I do that's more interesting today? How could I fulfill myself with more joy today? How could I infuse that in others more? How could I serve more? When you ask those questions every day, what could I do that's one thing more today?
Yeah, it's about our intention.
Yes.
Because intention directs attention.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so we want to have ever greater ROI, return on intentionality.
Yeah.
So that, for instance, as an artist, my greatest artwork is my life. It's not a painting, a drawing, a sculpture, it's my life. So as my chief ROI officer, I'm here to make sure that my life is a series of ever better overlapping learning opportunities.
Love it. Ever
so I
better,
can become ever better, and hopefully ever better together with others through collaboration, co-creation, through aligned, positive, shared purpose and value.
That's excellent.
By sharing my unique gift with others, especially the right people, the right way, the right time.
So speaking of sharing your light and your love and your ability to co-create, how can people who want to engage with you further, Whitney, how can they reach out to you? How can they continue this conversation to learn more about the work you do and to connect with you?
Well, you can find us, my co-author and I, at www.workthefuture.today.
Excellent.
So we have two books, Work the Future Today and
I love the WTF symbol.
2019 Pocket Pal. They're on Amazon. And you can also find me on LinkedIn, and my Twitter handle is @BrandGuru.
And we will have all of that information for you down in the show notes. So if you didn't catch that, you can either hit, rewind and listen to that again, or we will have all of that information in the show notes for you. Whitney, it has been such a pleasure having you on the show. And before the time goes by so fast when we have these conversations. We could take days and weeks to keep talking about how juicy this topic is. But as we're closing things out for this show, is there something you would like to leave behind as either that kind of aha or that nugget or a way to maybe bring this full circle for the listeners today?
Yes. About our unique gifts or unique gift. Even if you think you have absolutely nothing to give or share, just remember, sometimes all it takes is to share a smile.
Love that. There's so much power in a smile. I think the two most universal love languages are a smile and a hug. And I think we all have the ability to share that more. I truly believe heart-to-heart hugs, ones that come from the receiving, side. I think we could change business, speaking of dropping into that EQ space. But a smile, just making eye contact, just seeing somebody and offering a shared moment of, I see you, I respect you, I love you. And I'm just going to wish you peace and happiness for your day, goes a long way, right? And so any of this, everything that we're talking about is that leadership ultimately starts with you. It starts with you making a choice, a very intentional, purposeful, passionate choice that says, I should, I am, I deserve, I now am going to be forevermore a leader of my own life first, a leader of me. And it starts with you being able to say yes to yourself. So my wish, my invitation to all of you is that you continue to find ways to say yes to yourself. Destroy the noise that's getting in the way and know that leadership is ultimately your choice. It is a function of how you choose to show up, a function of how you choose to serve others, and it is a function of how you choose to take the personal responsibility we've been talking about today. With that, this is Candy. I want to say thank you to my amazing, just heartful, beautiful guest, Whitney Vosburgh, for joining us. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been
Anytime.
a pleasure.
Would love to have you come back. And for all of you listening, thank you as always for continuing to tune in to the Powerhouse Podcast. If you have not already subscribed, please do. We have a lineup of other amazing rock stars and powerhouse leaders that will be joining us for more conversation. Do not want you to miss an episode. And as always, be the lighthouse you were destined to be. Shine your light so the people that need you can find you, see you, and seek you out. With that, make it a phenomenal day. And remember, you are a leader now. We will talk to you next time. Stay tuned.